Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Mark from Solo Games, and I know it's been a couple days since I made a video, and if you're one of those high attention to detail types, you probably noticed my voice is a little bit lower than normal. And that's because apparently whatever this bug, illness, flu that's been going around everywhere, I've also gotten it recently too. But I feel like I'm recovering pretty well, and that's why I'm back on the camera trying to get in front of you guys and show you guys some stuff about, cardboard, TCGs, investing, things like that. So today we're going to have a short topic, but I think it's also kind of important. Also, it's a topic I kind of owe a good friend of mine who has been, communicating with me through email. So the topic is about Fomo, Flippers, and whether that's healthy for trading card games. So as I'm doing my prepping for my review video for Grand Archive, I started, jotting down a bunch of notes, doing a bunch of research, and I realized that, Grand Archive actually, did a really good job. And over 1,600 backers, covering nearly $1 million for its total amount backed. And then you look at some game like Sorcery, which, again, very large amount of backers, I think 6,500, and over 6 million New Zealand bucks, so whatever that equates to in USD, backed for that game. Still quite a big number as well. And so, the question was, how much of this type of investment, this type of hype going into a game, I think is around people who are really genuinely interested in the game and want to play versus the people who are looking at this as a good investment opportunity to go, 1, 2, 3, 10, 50x their money. Now, I have not seen what has happened with Sorcery. I know that the market does seem pretty hot, so I'm pretty sure it's doing very well as far as if you had backed the project and now that the project's shipping or has shipped, you probably could double, triple, quadruple your money fairly easily on the secondary market, selling your first edition or those backer kits type of products. In a similar vein, and this one I do know more about, is Grand Archive, and I can tell you right now, if you back the project and you bought booster boxes at, let's say, I don't know, $66, around that price, 50 to 60 bucks, well, guess what? You're basically looking to 6x your money, 7x your money, pretty much right now, easily. And who knows what the future will hold for that. So obviously, if you are one of the people who back these projects to flip the project, you're doing very well. But at the core of this question is whether that is healthy for the card game and whether that actually even works at all. No. So the first thing I want to say is, if you're trying to back a project just because you want to flip it, you should be very cautious. There's a couple problems with this. Now, almost every single Kickstarter project that's a card game currently will probably be very successful out of the gate, and we'll have a lot of people who are kind of in that FOMO moment of hey, you know what, I missed out on this game, and between the project ending and between, the hype generation phase to when the card's actually released, there's quite a bit of time. In the case of Grand Archive, that's almost 1.5 years before the actual first edition booster boxes were shipped and when the project actually ended its backing. So of course, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to say, you know what, if you just back these projects, you can definitely flip them for money. The unfortunate part about that is, while you may be right sometime, if you, for example, hold on too long and the game turns out to be not as popular or not as good, not as interesting as maybe the backers thought, you're going to take a dip, right? And there's a lot of these examples already. I think there was one I was looking at, it's Polywog or something, and there's there's a weed game type of thing. So there's a lot of these other games where, as far as I can tell, the secondary market is not respecting the game. And, well, the prices of the boxes are kind of falling, right? MetaZoo's kind of in that level too. I think there's still a very small group of people who are pushing pretty hard to go and continue to drive up the price for MetaZoo. But at the same time, the problem is if the game is not playable, if the game is not fun, who will actually go and continue to buy the boxes? And that actually segues pretty well into my second point here. The reason why Grand Archive was able to, for example, 7, 8x your money is simply because the game is well designed and it's a good game. And a lot of these elements you probably would not have noticed, a year and a half ago before any of these cards were released, before any of these events were announced, before all these stores and community was created. Back then, you had 1,600 backers, and probably the Discord was a much smaller size. There's probably not a lot of people playing games. And even just looking through the comments of, the early updates by the developers for Grand Archive, and then the responses by the backers, I saw a lot of people pushing back and saying, there's a lot of limitations to the game. There were actually a lot more concerns or questions about the game. And look, I wasn't part of the whole journey, so it's really hard for me to kind of historically tell you what happened and whether a lot of these things were feedback that was given to the dev that were changed. I do see that devs were taking feedback in pretty seriously for this game. But what essentially happened is that Grand Archive is able to give you that kind of output of cash, or give you a 7x return on your investment, because it's a good game. Not because there was FOMO, not because there's a limited quantity. Those things do matter, but those things matter only if the core game is good, right? If you have a good game and people want to buy more boxes and now they realize there's no boxes, the price will go up. If the game at the core is poor, doesn't matter how limited the print run was, doesn't matter how few certain things are or items are, the price of the product will never go up. And I want to give you this as an example so you guys can understand, right? 15 years ago, I think it's 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I don't remember, a long time ago, I backed a project called Shadow Era. So I know some of my watchers, my YouTube subscribers know about this game because, you've commented when I mentioned it a couple times in the past. But there's a game I backed called Shadow Era. This was a great mobile game, and it had a lot of things going for it. I mean, I was playing this game on my phone way back, and this was such a good alternative to Magic, such a good alternative to even Hearthstone. In fact, I think it was created before Hearthstone, that I felt like, look, the creators had the right mindset. They had digital tournaments going on all the time. There was a huge forum. Back then, we didn't have Discord. So forum was the only way to kind of have all the deck tags, builds, different types of organization for different tournaments. The creators I believed in, the game was solid, the theme was good. It's very dark, more magic-y, more like, your old school Diablo 2 kind of feel. And the artwork was honestly, non-apologetic, right? The artwork, if you've never seen Shadow Era artwork, go online, look up Shadow Era, look up some of the cards. I mean, they have women who are super curvy, super sexy, non-apologetic, not like basically what card game has become nowadays, right? And they had monsters that were just vile, vicious. They had demons, they had necromancers that were true necromancers. These things are really important for Shadow Era as a card game theme, right? So aesthetics, graphics, 10 out of 10, great. The gameplay, pretty solid, right? Like probably a 9 or 8 out of 10. There's some issues, but it's pretty good. The actual community, there was a community. All these things were positive. So I, of course, backed the Kickstarter. I told a bunch of my friends at work also to back Kickstarter. So some of you guys know me from back then, when I told you to do this. And what happened? There were a lot of issues. First thing is, the creator didn't understand, for example, how to create an actual physical game. I mean, he's really good at coding, he's really good at building and designing a game, but the printing process, getting the cards made, that is not a trivial process. So in the beginning, a lot of items were overpromised and eventually underdelivered, to the point where when the project was delivering, a bunch of the stretch goals and things that we unlocked just never made it. Like the deck boxes, the tins, the playmats, none of those things ever came to fruition. And effectively, the creator just traded those bonus items back for points because he didn't want to delay shipping for these things any longer. And so a lot of the bonus things we just never got. Coins, dice, counters, etc. That's number one. Number two, this was a really bad card game. It's a great digital game, but because of the amount of things you have to track, it was a poorly designed paper card game. And so, of course, if today you go on eBay, you go anywhere, and you look up Shadow Era, like the physical card game, there may be a couple boxes for sale here and there, but overall, it's a game that doesn't exist. And the boxes that are being sold for probably less than what I paid for at the Kickstarter time, right? So just to give you an understanding of like what it is. In fact, I purchased more Shadow Era like years later, right? Looking on eBay, whatever, and just saying, hey, like that seems like a really low price. I love the artwork. I'll just buy it for the artwork perspective. Maybe one of these days I'll bring some of these cards with me and I'll show you guys what they look like. The cards are amazing. The gameplay, again, I'm telling you, on the digital client is amazing. I really like it. The problem is it was just poorly made for paper. So how does that affect or matter for what we're talking about here? Had I been a flipper for Shadow Era, going into the game because I just wanted to 7x my money, it would have been a terrible mistake. Even though everything was looking bright prior to the project being funded, right? And part of that is just simply because, look, you think the card game is good, there's a good history, but there are a lot of elements that are unforeseeable, are unforeseen and unforeseeable that you have to give the testament of time. So when the card game is released, when the paper game is released, when you can actually play it, you start seeing how easy or simple or great the game is or how difficult it is. And that's actually the deciding factor. Not the fact that, people missed out or something like that, or there's a bunch of flippers. Is the card game ultimately good? And if the card game is good, people are going to open more packs and they're going to have higher demand for the product, and of course the price will go up. And that's it. So ultimately, should you back a project, should you, do any of these things, the only thing that matters is whether you like it. Because if you like the game, you think the game is going to do well, you think the game is going to be fun, the best thing that can happen is you buy a lot of this thing and you are a billionaire, okay? Not really, but kind of, right? You can make a lot of money. The worst thing that can happen is you get a game that you truly love. And here's the thing. I have sealed boxes of Shadow Era right now, from the first set, from that Kickstarter, from all those things, from years ago. They're worth less than what I paid for back then. So definitely my money is tied in that whatever amount of money. I think I pledged around maybe $900 back then total. It was a lot of money 20 years ago, right? But for me personally, I like the game. I still like the artwork. And so sometimes if you ever find me on a plane, as an example, you may see me using one of the Shadow Era cards as my bookmark. Because again, I like the artwork. I like the game. But unfortunately, it's a terrible paper game. And that's all it takes for the project to essentially not be successful. And that's the thing. Whenever you think about the next card game, Lorcana, all these other things that could be, Lorcana is not on Kickstarter, I know, but anything that could be a backer project, Kickstarter, whatever type of thing, right? GoFundMe type of thing. The only thing that really matters is, do you like the game? Do you have confidence that the game will be good? That's the only reason why you should back. And only back what you feel is comfortable, and never more than what you feel is comfortable, and never more than what your discretionary spending, budgeting could allow. And that's just being smart with your money. Because there's so many opportunities out there. And here's the thing. Do I like Grand Archive? Yes. Is it a good game? I believe so. Does it have legs? Will it be here in 2 years? Who knows? Look, everything right now looks bright. The future does look bright. I feel like the community is so strong right now that it's hard to just extinguish this community. However, could the developers do something stupid in the next 2 years and really totally ruin the game? Could they do something stupid 3 or 4 times in a row and then really just erode any trust that the players have in the game? Absolutely. And so there's never a never moment, right? I don't want to say, it for sure, guarantee 1,000%, 100, it's going to be perfect. It's not true, but it's looking good, right? And that's because, again, there's a community out there supporting it. But if you want to be sure, just wait 2 years. Usually, if a card game, any game, anything, survives that 2 to 3 year mark, especially what I want to see also is not 2 years of just bullish moments. I want to see some mistakes. I want to see a little bit backtracking, those kind of things. And that's important for growth. You ever hear this saying that people give you, you learn more from your mistakes? I truly believe that. I think a good card game should make some mistakes and should make those mistakes early so they can pivot, adjust, and basically make their game better for the future. And those lessons will carry that game forward. I mean, Magic had those growing pains. Pokemon had the same things. Yu-Gi-Oh! All of these card games that are kind of like, have been here for a long time, went through those growing pains and survived them. And that survival is important. And that survival is what will define this card game for the future. So if you're not sure, right, whether you like the card game or not, don't back it. Wait 2 years, see that the game is still around, see that people still love it, and then it's not too late. Even then, it's not too late. Because if you think about it this way, right? Everybody who always tells me things like, but like, had I backed it at the Kickstarter, it would have been $66 for a booster box. Now I'm paying like $350. Okay? So let's say in 2 years, you're going to pay $600 for a first edition booster box of Grand Archive. Does it really matter? Because if you love the game and you think the game has even brighter future with more players and more people who are going to seek that thrill of opening the first edition, first ever printed booster box, $500-$600 is not expensive. Because everybody, think about it this way, right? So let's say you're in 1996 and you could buy get your hands on a sealed booster box of, Magic the Gathering Alpha Edition, the first ever print run, let's say for $1,000, 1996. Would you have bought it? Probably not, because you might have said, well, I could get Homelands or, Ice Age, whatever for, $60, $70 each box. Why would I pay $1,000 for a box of Alpha? Again, I'm just throwing numbers out there. I have no clue if that was the going price back then. Something like that, right? Well, I could say, well, sure, that might have been very expensive in 96. But if we look at it now, today, if you have a sealed booster box of, Magic the Gathering Alpha, how much is it? $30,000, $50,000, $100,000. So what is $1,000 to you at this point? The only thing that matters is not 10xing, 20xing your money. The only thing that matters is whether the card game is good and whether it has longevity. And maintaining that longevity is not easy. It will have bumps, and it will challenge the creators and the company that's going to run the game, but it will ultimately test them and test their perseverance. And if they can succeed through the turbulence, through the problems, through the issues, then they will have a great game. And once they have a great game, then it doesn't matter. At that point, all the things that they're creating will be worth infinite money. And then it's not about 10xing or 100xing your money. Maybe it's 1,000, 30,000 xing your money. Who cares? That's going to do it for me for today. Mark Sola Games. I'm out. I'll see you next time. Stay classy.